This episode of Who Thought We'd Be Here is brought to you by Joker Ink Apparel Decorating Company, your ultimate destination for screen printing, embroidery, and full-color digital printing. Whether it's bold apparel that makes heads turn or promotional swag that leaves a mark, we've got the expertise to make your vision come alive. And the best part, we handle orders from just one piece to a whopping 1 million. No project is too big or too small. With Joker Ink, your imagination is the limit. Our skilled team ensures every design pops with vibrancy, while our state-of-the-art technology guarantees precision and quality. Ready to make your brand unforgettable? Call us now at 845-863-3460 or visit jokerinc.com. That's JOKERINK.com. Joker Ink, where creativity meets limitless possibilities. Get noticed, get remembered. Contact Joker Inc. today at 845-863-3460 or visit www.jokerinc.com.
And when that don't work, I take a second to breathe, yeah. Breathe in, breathe out. Couple rain clouds ain't gon' get me down. I say, breathe in, breathe out. I'm getting back to me. All the things I do, all the things I say, all the times I took a chance, all of the mistakes I made, none of it matters. None of it matters.
I think that should be fine.
All the things I do, all the things I say, all the times
Alright.
I get.
Hey, how are you?
Right. Yeah, we're back again.
Yeah, just another episode. You know,
It's January 26th.
this is episode 20 of Who Thought We'd Be Here.
Yeah, episode 20. Should we call this episode What a Long, Strange Trip It's Been?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff has happened, especially lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, just for example, we got an episode with John Kilmer that people can listen to.
Yeah.
That's our biggest guest yet by far.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
That shit is... He was kind enough to let us collaborate on his post for about 2 hours.
Yeah, man,
But, I mean,
we'll take it.
yeah, no, of course, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got that going for us. We got a big guest checked off. So we've done at least one of those episodes now where there was like,
Can you move a little bit? It's like the flowers in the, or
Ow.
the fake plant is in the way of your
Oh.
face. There you go.
that one?
Mm-hmm. Not in the camera angle, but for me being able to see you.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Although talking to the plant.
Yeah. So we've accomplished that. We
Yeah, like that's a goal that like we followed through on. That was like there before we even like did any episode of this.
Yeah. So we got that
And that's
done.
kind of crazy that and not only did it come through, but like it came through, like it really kind of went off without a hitch. And we
Yeah.
were like really stressing about like how's a remote episode going to work? How are we going to do this? And then
And it was super simple.
yeah, it was super simple, and I don't think we could have possibly predicted him to be like as like generous and
Shows
kind
was,
as he
yeah.
was. Yeah, to like, you know, it's not like he's Brad Pitt, but like he does have an online presence, and like sometimes I think
Should have compared him to Dwayne. Yeah.
you think that people are going to be, you know, standoffish or pretentious or whatever it might be, and that has no bearing on him and what we know about him, but that's just like you worry that something's going to go wrong, or you worry that, you know, people aren't as like what they appear, and like realistically, like we can't, there's nothing, like he was just so generous and like really dropped some
Knowledge.
serious, yeah, exactly, that not only I think will connect with our fan base, but like I really did feel like he gave us some stuff that was like really personal to us. Whether like it's not like he knows us that well, but like there's certainly things for that I think he said that hit both of us
Yeah.
in specific spots that you kind of go in thinking it's going to be like a general basic conversation, and he was like right off the bat like very vulnerable, which allowed us to be vulnerable. And I think that that's where the best conversations come from.
Yeah, man. we got that episode down. We were guests for the first time on a podcast.
Yeah, that was super exciting too. That was honestly probably the most fun we've had doing an episode.
3 hours.
Yeah, almost a 3-hour episode. Yeah, you will see us. Good friend of mine, Brian Galligan, host of the Iconical Show, the Iconical brand. Check him out. He'll also hear his radio voice at the beginning of this because he did the recording for our ad. But that was just like, and that was like such a great moment for me too, because to like see you guys connect like that and be
man, he was
like
a very
the
genuine
bridge.
person.
Yeah, he brings good energy everywhere he goes. Showed up just with
Gifts.
just
He
with
came
gifts for
bearing gifts.
everybody. Yeah.
No candy though.
Yeah.
Brian forgot the Starburst.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so we got that.
He did it at the last open mic I went to with him too.
Oh really?
He went out to his car. Everybody was like, "Dude, you're the guy with the Starburst." He came back with a gift bag.
I ate like 4 bags of Starburst.
Yeah, that was disgusting.
Yeah.
That was hard to watch.
Yep. So we did that. We put out the mini episode, so I got to like get some shit off my chest,
Yeah.
because this has been not like a trying time, but like things are definitely
Yeah,
different
no,
for me than they've been in the
yeah.
last 5 years.
Things are changing. You're. I mean, I don't like using the phrase "you're on your own" because like we're never really on our own, but you're probably making more decisions
More for
just in
myself.
line with yourself than and like obviously like that's what you do when you're in a relationship, which is like you factor that person's into it, but it's got to be nice to just have kind of that freedom
Yeah.
to, I don't know.
It's like I said it to you and Will the other day after yoga. Like, I've been doing all this work for a really long time, and it was always with somebody else in mind. And for the first time, it's really only about me now. Like, all the steps that I take moving forward are just things to progress myself without the worry about how somebody else is going to handle the situation. And I get to kind of just go off on my own and explore,
Yeah.
which I'm excited for.
Do you feel like that relationship was a big part of why you made all these changes?
I think
Like, what do you think that, because it had to have some type of factor into
it
it.
definitely had a factor, and I think at the beginning it was like me trying to just be a better person and bring that energy and that like that to all of my relationships. That one was obviously one of the key ones, but like it was it was big for me to make those changes. I mean, we talked about in the episode that was like the year for me, like the year recap. Like,
Yeah.
it was something that I knew I needed to start changing my life to be more aligned with where I saw myself in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I think wanting to be a better person when I was in a relationship, like, definitely helped move the needle forward. But
Okay.
now it's just like, I know that I can bring that energy to every relationship I have. Like, and now it's just, I don't know. I just in a way feel lighter, because you don't have the stresses of being in a relationship. Like, not that, like, I'm not saying anything bad. Like,
No. We've all
I'm
been,
just-
there's a value, and we've,
I've definitely grown. Like, me and you talked about how I would have handled that a year ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. That would have been a disaster for me. But the way I am now, I'm grateful that I was in that relationship for the time that I was in it. People come and people go, like, and that's the way it is. But like, you learn stuff. I learned stuff about myself. I think I've become a better person from it. And
I'm proud of you, man. It's nice to see you like handle it this way, because like I've been through breakups too, and I've I'm sure it hurts on the inside. I get that,
Yeah,
but
no,
it's like
like-
a lot of times that it takes over and it becomes the only feeling, and it's refreshing to see that you're dealing with it and you're taking the energy and placing it into like not a wasteful place where like you're not ruminating over things could have been different, or I could have been a different person, or I wish that it had gone this way instead of that way. Like, we can all spend like so much time ruminating on why something didn't go right, and it's really wasted energy.
Yeah, man. And like that's the big thing.
You learn.
That's my biggest takeaway from this is like I learned to throughout throughout the relationship and then the end of it, like I learned that there's no point in holding any grudge. Like there's no reason to like I don't know, to go out on bad terms. Like she's a good person and I'm happy for her and I'm sure she'll do well in life and like I know that I'm going to do good, you know? Like this is just the beginning for me and like things like we said, things end and new things start. And
Yeah, well, I mean, I think like, and you've been on the other end of this too, maybe not for a long time, but when something ends in a way that isn't like, I don't know about mutual, but, you know, in a way where you're like, fuck that person, where you're like, I'm good, you know, and I think that sometimes that's just like the way things happen and people have to split their own ways. But I also do think that it's healthy because I think that just makes you feel like you wasted more time.
yeah.
If you're going to be like, they're a piece of shit, they're the worst. Well, I mean, because in a way you're then taking it out on yourself because you spent 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is. And then you're saying that it was a waste. And that would be silly. Like,
Yeah.
I understand that, you know, relationships end badly, things go south, but it doesn't serve moving forward in your life in a positive way to be like, I'm better than them. I didn't, you know, and like sometimes that's why relationships end and you have to have that reaction. But I do think that sometimes it's okay to be realistic and just be like, we just weren't for each other anymore. And that doesn't have to be like a comparison or a better than, or I brought more value in this and you did that, and pointing fingers. And I think that allows you, because I think when people ask you about it and people, you know, like people can kind of expect a negative connotation with that. And that's, like I said, that I don't think that serves anybody. And I think if you really love somebody, regardless of how things went down, you just kind of accept the situation for what it is, and that allows you to deal with it in a more realistic way.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time. Is like things change, and like when things change, like it's not always gonna go the way you expect it to, and sometimes it's better to just be like, I let this go. I let you go with love. Like, you know, like I got love for you, and we're going on separate paths, and it's just it was our time, you know. You know, I like today's Daily Calm was about closure, and like we haven't talked, but at the same time, like I'm at peace with the situation, you know, like there's no reason.
It's just like understanding you don't have any other choice.
Yeah, I feel like at this point in my life, that energy that I could be like tearing them down or like just going about it in like a more aggressive, like ruthless way, like there's just that energy is so much more well spent somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like I've done so much stuff in the last month just like on my own, like just taking the time to like affirm to myself like I'm on the right path, like this happened for a reason, like it ran its course and it's time to move on, and like there's no point in holding a grudge, you know.
Yeah, I think
that's growth to me.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, I think also like what can happen too is people oftentimes, and it can work to kind of motivate you, but if like, you know, people talk about like not even just like the revenge body, you know what I mean, or I'm gonna be a better person now so that they like regret this decision. And I think a big point of kind of what you're going through now and what we can all kind of learn from is to like do it for yourself. And I think that is the longer lasting, more effective way of building self-love versus, because then you're just trapped in another thing and then you're going to get caught in another cycle when you date the next person, and you know, you want to be X, Y, and Z for external reasons. And like there's nothing wrong with wanting to be like a good partner and to be a better person. Like I'm not gonna shoot down anybody's thing that like, oh, like I'm gonna be a better person so that I can get back at them. But if you're not doing it for the right reasons and your heart isn't in the right place, that can get dangerous because then you're placing that value on it because you want somebody else to feel a certain way about you. And like I'm entirely guilty of that at multiple points in my life, which is, like you want that satisfaction of they missed out. Or they're the ones who fucked up. Like I came up, whatever it is. And that I think is just a dangerous road to go down because then you're not creating value within yourself. You're still relying upon some type of external validation, even if like as good as that feels is not the answer to kind of being at peace with that.
Yeah, and it's like, do you let the ego handle how you're going to handle this situation? Or do you just, like, focus on yourself, center yourself, take a couple breaths if you need to, like, when you're thinking like crazy. It's like, I mean, I don't know how far into this book you are yet.
I'm only on chapter 2.
Yeah.
Or I finished 2 chapters.
Yeah, but like the Power of Awakening was like, I read that at exactly the right time. And it's like, do you want to let your ego, like, because like you were saying, I'm going to be better, like, and then you're going to miss out. Like that's an ego narrative. And if you just let that go and like you can be better and like, but your intention is to be better for yourself moving forward. So you can, in the next relationship or wherever you go from that point, you can just know that you're doing better for yourself. Because if you're only trying to do better so your ego's appeased and you make the other person feel bad, like what the fuck's the point of that? Like it's not going to last. You're not going to get satisfaction from that in the long run. It's more about tuning into yourself and like doing it for you, not to make anybody feel bad or not for any other reason. But
Well, because that creates like
chaos in your thoughts.
Well, but I think when you're doing it for the reason of yourself, that creates more of a long-lasting change that is more manageable over time versus, like, what are you going to, like, you can pretend to be like, not pretend to be, but you can strive towards being a better person because you think they missed out. Okay, but then, like, what happens if they, like, marry somebody who's, like, the CEO of a charity and you can't possibly, like... How's anybody gonna that? And that's just like me making something up off the top of my head. But it's kind of like, I want to, I'm gonna be more famous, or I'm gonna be more successful, or I'm gonna be this, and instead of that, and that's kind of just a mindset that's locked into the past. That is, I'm trying to make up for whatever went wrong, and it's kind of leaving aside the fact of maybe there's like a really good reason why this doesn't work out.
Yeah, man. I posted that Napoleon Hill quote the other day, and it's just like any heartache, any tough situation, any loss is just the seed for greater opportunity. And like that's the truth.
Yeah.
And you just got to manifest it to be something better, Like there's no point in sitting around throwing stones like.
Yeah, I listened to, I think it was 10% Happier, but don't hold me to that. But they said like it's always something, which is basically like, we always think that once this problem is solved, then I can do, like, once I get this job, once I get this promotion, once I find a partner, once I get over this breakup, once I, this deal goes through or I get things together, then I'll be able to be happy. And I think half of the battle is just like being content with where it is right now. Because if you're always coming from that place of I lack this, I lack that, then
you're always gonna lack that.
Yeah, so exactly. Because that's, you're just imprinting that into your mind. And I'm not saying it's the easiest thing to just be like, I have everything I need, but a lot of times we're unsatisfied with what we have just because we're comparing ourselves, or we're caught up in what we think is the ideal or where we should be at, and that's just not effective.
Yeah, man. And I think it's like me and you talked that we wanted to talk about this today, and like it comes down to self-worth and like what do you value yourself at, and like I think for me, especially right out of the gate, I struggled a little bit, and I just felt like not that I was like upset. I mean, I was upset about how like it ended, more so like I went through quite a few changes in just like 2 weeks because of the relationship ending. Not only did my relationship end, I had to move home. I was unemployed.
Yeah.
Like there was just so much time to be in my head, and when you spend that time in your head and like you're coming from a negative place, it's very easy to just start to lose the value you have in yourself.
And you think that like whatever, like where you're at right now is all you have, you know?
And it's like you're not sitting back and looking at the bigger picture. Like that was something that I had to sit down and do, and like that's why when I did the mini pod, like that was big for me because I got that all off my chest. And like it's just like I was starting to let my ego tell me that like you're not in a relationship, you're living at home, you're not working, like things aren't going your way, you're not where you expected to be at this point, and it was just diminishing my self-worth. And like I just had to stop for a couple of days and just like really sit and like affirm to myself like, yo, this is just life, man. It's just playing out. Like the universe isn't conspiring against you. Like it's always going to conspire for you, and I have blind faith in that, like that it's going to work out for the better for me. And like that can be a really rough place to be in, and like I know that you're dealing with some of that stuff right now. So
Absolutely,
like,
yeah.
it's just like,
I mean, number one, like it's very hard to like feel any type of worth as a man if you're not working. Like, you know,
it's
like
the way society is.
yeah, I dread the thought of like meeting some girl who's into me and then having to explain to her I'm not working right now, because that's like immediately like oh, okay, you're a bum.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying that every person is like that. Believe me, I'm not. But it's not how you want to start something, and it's not where you want to come from.
Yeah,
Because a lot of your confidence and your worth and stuff like that, especially as a man, comes from that. Can you provide? Can you bring something to the table? Like, what are you doing? And having to, you know, go a little while without having that can be tough. And you start to question, like, where is my worth at? You know, why is how I define myself about the numbers on my paycheck or whatever.
I think that's why this podcast is so big for both of us, because granted, neither one of us was working when we started it.
I was about to quit my job in like a week.
Like, you're not working right now. I just started working again. There's like been patches where I was working, but like this podcast is like something that me and you can look at and be like, I know where my worth is, because I'm taking the time out of my day to talk about things that I know people think about.
Yeah.
But they might not openly want to talk about.
Yeah.
But like at least we can bring our piece to it. And like just being able to serve in that way is like, honestly, I don't give a fuck. Like, I think what we do here is greater than like, I don't need a fucking huge paycheck. Like, I'm not going to find value in that. It's nice to pay your bills and to have nice things, but at the end of the day, this is what matters. Being able to serve and help other people. And I can't do that if I'm working 75 hours a week, like doing something I don't enjoy. Like, I'm not going to have the energy to do this. I can't bring that energy to the podcast. Like, I can't, what advice do I have to give from that? Like, that's another thing to look at. It was like, we've both gone through struggles in the last year, and that's so relatable to everybody.
Yeah.
And we can bring that.
But the truth is that everybody acts like things are all okay. And like, I'm not saying that, you know, I get that. I really do. Like, you know, like you just want to portray that like I'm doing okay. Like you know, I'm doing well. And a lot of it comes from wanting that validation from others, but I mean, it is nice to have like that evidence of like we're here, we're still putting in the work, and there's something more to life that you can bring to the table that is beyond just here's my
this is what I make, this is the kind of car I drive, this is the house I live in. Like,
and I mean, especially now with what kind of the state of just finances in general for people our age, and then you add on top of that like working in restaurants is great and you're walking out with cash, but I was just talking to your mom about this before we came here, which is that like you worry about like there's no health care for us. Like there's no long-term like retirement 401k, and like I said, it's not all about that, but it can be very easy to like spiral yourself into that hole of I'm a nobody. And the reason is like we're not going to act like it at all. Like people have the utmost respect. It's great to have the respect of people who do what we do, but in a lot of ways people look down upon it. And that will never change. You know, you'll always just be the person who like serves somebody food, or like you'll be the person who's like at my beck and call.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a big part of like what took a toll on me, is because it wasn't enough of when your identity gets completely wrapped up into that, and then your purpose starts to kind of like fall by the wayside, and you feel like the only one who it matters to is you, and that you're only doing it to say like, okay, like I'm a reasonable adult, I have a job. And that gets overwhelming, you know? And then even you add on top of that, it's just like, you know, like I was watching the episode of The Bear last week where where he like caters the kid's birthday party.
Oh, I know.
And puts the Xanax in the thing. And he's like, so you still working at the restaurant? And he's like, so what's it like to be a fucking loser?
Yep.
And like everybody laughs except for like one guy, you know? And he's like, I mean, obviously there's a different story because he was like a Michelin star chef. But sometimes it's hard to believe that there's value in your life beyond your label as a man, you know? And when you have that, you know, like what's the question that everybody asks when you first meet somebody?
What do you do?
What do you do? Yeah. And we're trying to kind of like embrace that of being like, no, we have a podcast, but like everybody thinks that's a fucking ridiculous answer.
Yeah.
You know?
Fuck it.
Yeah.
You know?
No, but you know what I mean? That is just like, oh, okay, like you were here, now you're.
Yeah.
Because but then all of a sudden when we've got 5,000, 10,000 downloads, whatever, you know, like further success down the road, then it's a real thing. Then you respect it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that same thing in the restaurant, which is that like nobody almost respects what you do, and then they find out that's how much you made in tips tonight. Oh, well, you know, but all right, but like you saw me working hard. What does
that's
know?
where my value lies in my work ethic, not in how much I'm fucking taking home, you know, like I can show up and do this shit every single day and bust my ass and like be proud of how hard I work. Like same with this podcast, and like, you know, like you're doing stand up now, and like that's a whole nother thing that's like people look around and just like value you on like your external like shit, and like I dare somebody to say some shit to you about doing stand-up. Like, you get up and fucking do a 5-minute set. Like, I know I can't now. Like, you go do that. Like,
no,
that's something that you have that nobody can take away from you.
No, it's true, and it is nice. It's definitely nice to hear that. But it's also like just because of the way that kind of society is set up, I think to myself, I create this in my own head, which is like, so let me get this straight. You're not working right now. But now you're going to start pursuing something that for the average person, if they're even good enough to get to the point where they do that for a living, you're years away from making like an actual living off of. And I can't explain why it made sense for me to do that. But maybe I think that's why I feel much more content in where I'm at right now. And with that decision of leaving the restaurant, to just be like, I'm taking it as it comes. Like,
so let's talk about that for a second. So for you and for your self-worth, like I know you're not like working and like that takes a toll on you. Yeah. But
it's like I said, it's like it feels embarrassing sometimes to say that, you know?
And it can be, but you're doing something that you truly love.
Yeah.
And that you truly enjoy doing. And
I do.
You're bringing joy to other people and helping serve in that way. Fuck it, who cares, man? Like, you gotta sometimes you just gotta look in the mirror and be like, I'm where I need to be, and I'm doing what I love to do, and like the money will come, man.
Of course.
Money comes easily and frequently. Abundance is everywhere. Like, once you get in aligned with that, like, you're gonna be fine. So like,
well, that's one of the things I try to look at, is just to be like, what can I give from this? Hopefully I can, like, me doing this and as scared as I am and embarrassing as it can be almost, is just like, I hope that somebody else is like, wow, like that means I can go do this, start this business, start that podcast, leave my job and try something new.
Yeah, man. And like that's again, like people get so wrapped up in external shit, and like I think me and you have something like with podcasting, with you doing stand up, that something nobody can take away from us.
No.
And like granted, like we're not fucking Jay Shetty, like, but at the same time, like
that's
we're
not-
out there trying to do something to make the world a better place and help other people. And how many people can fucking say that when they're so caught up and I need to make this much money and I need to have this car and like live in this nice house and like have all this shit? What are you doing
And then have
that
a-
brings you actual value? Because when all that shit is gone, like when you
Yeah.
die, like you're not taking anything with you. What I can take with me when I
Yeah.
keel over is that me and you made an attempt to help somebody else.
Yeah.
As many episodes as this goes, for every single one of them, we tried to make everybody a little bit better or help in some sort of way. And I think that is probably the most significant thing that you need in life.
Yeah, and I think what I'm trying to lean into from, like I said, I mean, it doesn't, it's like, it sounds crazy that it's like, so let me get this straight. Like, you left your job, you started a podcast, you started doing stand-up comedy, but like, what are you doing with your life? And I feel like that's a very kind of like outdated mindset, but it's also, it just comes from like what's deep rooted in not only our society, but I think it's everywhere, which is that it's just like, this is how it's supposed to go. This is what you're supposed to do. And then, I always told myself as like a teenager and even into my 20s that like, I don't want to be that guy at, 50 years old who says, damn, I wish I had tried to, and I do genuinely feel like I missed out on some things throughout those years that, you get insecure about, or you're scared of what other people will think. And I think why now these things feel so right and so easy to do is because I'm like, I can't let that fear and that feeling win again. Like I can't continue to be in that place where somebody else is at the wheel. And it's not even like it's a specific person. It's just the general opinion of, and more often than not, if there's anything I've learned from doing this and from doing stand-up, but also from doing this podcast, which is that like when you start something like this and you do something like this, it's a great way to find out like where you really stand with people. Like, is the people who support me in that and are like, good for you, and like, that's awesome that you're out there and you're pursuing your dream, like that comes from a genuine state of like, I want you to succeed just as much as I want myself, and I want you to, but we've gone over this plenty of times before, which is that like, there's people who are going to scroll past our videos and not give a shit. But then when we have X amount of following, or we get this certain guest,
I knew that kid from when I hung out at River Grill.
yeah, and they'll be the ones they'll be the ones, yeah, exactly. And like I said, but I think that comes back to, that's not why we're doing it. Like, I'd be happy, like, if that's what it takes for you to get to this point, then so be it. Like, but some people just don't feel comfortable with that. But that's why it means so much to me, especially with doing stand-up, having people like you and friends who have been behind me and who support that and don't try to like shoot that down. Because I find that if there are people who do that, it kind of comes from a place of like, I'm scared to try what I want to do. And like, more than like, and you know this too, that like, I know that feeling. But you're just wasting time by, like I made up so many excuses for myself that I couldn't work in a restaurant and pursue what I wanted to do, that I had to have some type of like stable, normal day job.
Which is wild, because if you look at people that like live in LA, like what do they do
Yeah.
during the day when they fucking do stand up at night? Just
Yeah.
work in a restaurant.
And that's why, yeah, exactly. And for multiple reasons. And that's kind of why now I feel so much more content with the fact of Like, yeah, I could go back to a restaurant now. And like, would I be like, feel like I was living out my dream by waiting on tables or making drinks? No, but there would be some other type of, I'm finding purpose and fulfillment from elsewhere, so I don't feel like my entire identity is this job.
I think that's a big part of it is fine. It was good for both of us. Like when I quit my job and then I started podcasting with you, like it helped me find like I was always just the bartender and now I'm so much more than that.
Yeah,
and
that's how it feels, and especially like not like I've got all the love in the world for River Grill, but there is something about there that like, and maybe it's just for me that like just I felt like that had to be my identity, and that bleeds into other parts of your life, and maybe there's a time where that would balance out better for me in my life. But I also think that why kind of put yourself into that place where like you're already going to kind of feel stuck. You're going to feel like I'm back where and I haven't come any further. And I think that that's a tough place to be at, but it's also like a matter of self-awareness. Like sometimes like you're banging your head against the wall at the same place that doesn't make sense for what you're trying to do in your life. And it was just, and I'm sure you felt this too, which is like, it was just never the place where like you go in, you go to work, you can clock out at the end of the night. And that's not like, that's part of the culture of working with your friends and being in that type of atmosphere. But it's also part of why I feel like that's not really true. Like, why couldn't you have done, like, you had days off.
Yeah.
You had time, and like, it's all about where you spend your energy. Like, and if you're putting your energy into things that aren't necessarily healthy for you or that don't bring you value outside of that, like, like as much as it sucks, but like 95% of people don't like their jobs. Yeah. And that's just the way that life is, and we're lucky enough that like we don't have like families to support where we don't have to make sacrifices like that. But sometimes it's okay to just be figuring it out. And as long as I think that that's why I had such a hard time with those things in the past, which is that I didn't put any other work into other things, or at least I didn't put in the amount that I would like to.
I think I'm on such a huge Wayne Dyer kick, and I'm not going to drop it, but like I'm so excited for you to like get through this book.
Yeah.
Because it's really going to open you up. Like I talk about all the time, like rewiring your mind, and you have those thoughts that are just like ingrained for so long that like really just try and hold you back, and like that shit's going to wake you up, man. Like there's going to be chapters in there that are so powerful that you're not going to be able to deny. You're going to be like, I don't need to think like this. Like these thoughts are just fucking useless and they're wasting my time.
And they're more importantly, they're not you. They came from somewhere or some situation or some place, events that wasn't you, that it's like a familiar pain. I may not like putting myself down, but putting myself down is familiar, and going out there and trying something new and uncertain, regardless of what the outcome may be, is not that. So what's like oftentimes like our brain and our bodies love just familiarity, and that's why I'm starting to notice like the ripple effects of like I did something like stand up that felt to me like the scariest thing in the world to do, and it by no means has that like gone away, that it's not still scary every time my name gets called and I go up there. But that creates this thing that's like like I can't be, it's not that I can't be, but it puts you into a new frame of mind that's like, I get up in front of however many people every week and try to be funny. Why am I going to be anxious at the grocery store when I'm doing something normal, or why am I going to be ashamed of X, Y, or Z? And you notice how fear can just have that chokehold on you. And when you like, I forget who I started to say this, but somebody said it's just like, fear is afraid of you too. Fear is afraid of the day where you get tired of listening to it. Like, fear is afraid of that time where you're like, what you're doing is not true. So I'm going to look this in and prove to myself that this is not the truth. And when you do it in one area, especially when it's in an area where it's like judgment, anxiety, putting yourself out there, and like, I feel closer to my real self just over the last couple of weeks than I have in a long time, just because of that, because there's no other, and people can sense when you're not being yourself, when you're not being authentic. And the most important thing, there's a lot of different facets to it, but I think the most important thing that you can be up there is be authentic.
Yeah. And like, you know why it feels so good when you get off the stage? Because you're connecting to your spirit, man. You're connecting to your intention, like what you actually want from life. And like all of those thoughts of like, this is terrifying, like I don't want to do it, it's scary, like, and that's all because your ego just doesn't, it wants you to live in that place where like it's content, but you're not. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, your intuition is something like that you can fucking feel, right? You agree with me? Like,
yeah, I mean, some days it's harder than others to, I think, know what the real.
But if you tap into that the same way that you tap into your ego or your fear, like when you listen to that, like think of how much improvement there is to make. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's a thing people struggle with, is like everybody will fucking bow down or just like stop doing something because fear or ego gets in the way. Like they got judged and they let somebody else like say something about them. If you followed your intuition, the gut feeling or that feeling in your heart, the way that you let fear lead you, you'd be a fucking way happier person.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I find it to be, I think Rick Rubin talked about this, which was like kind of like stretching it like a muscle, which is like if you start listening to your intuition in like simple ways, like, oh no, I should take the long way home tonight, or I should go try out this new place instead of whatever. Like, when you start to like learn how to follow that voice in like small little ways, it just opens it up and you're kind of stretching that muscle more and more. And before you know it, you can kind of like follow that voice on big decisions, and you won't have to be like, oh, I don't know. You'll deep down, you'll have a feeling that that it's supposed to be the right way.
On the train ride home, the day that we broke up, like then that I like decided I was coming home. This whole last year and a half of getting to know myself, I've like taken little steps to let my intuition guide me. I knew when I got off that train that I kind of knew like it was it. I was like, I was going to have this discussion with her about how I just quit my job, and that's going to be it. Like, that's going to be the straw that broke the camel's back. And like intuitively, I knew like I'm coming home and I'm just going to make peace with that. I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to start an argument. I'm not going to try and deny this or like try and like work through it. Like, if she decides like this is what she wants, like I'm going home and I'm going to be okay with that. I was listening to a song and like it said something about like things aren't the way that they have been lately, and I was like, yeah, man, they fucking aren't. Like, and I can feel it in my gut, like that I know that this is it. Like, like that's the first time I've said it. Like, I hadn't even said that to you until now. I'll play you the song like afterwards. But I listened to that verse while I was getting off the stop at Astoria Ditmar, and I was like, this is fucking it, man.
Yeah.
This is not gonna go like. You're not gonna come. Like, we're not gonna sit down and have this conversation and her be okay with the fact that I just quit my job. Like, I know that I'm doing what I need to be doing for me right now, and it's gonna unsettle her, and like I just have to make peace with that, and like if she wants to move on because of that, then I have to let that happen.
But I think intuition in moments like that, because it can be very easy to get caught up in like being like, oh, this one thing happened, so that's why we're breaking up entirely. No. That's what I'm saying is that like your intuition was like, things haven't been okay. Things haven't been the same, and that's not like
you're growing apart.
That's not. Yeah, exactly. And like, it's one of the saddest things about life, just in general, is that sometimes people aren't around as long as you think they are, and that is in multiple ways, not just in breakups, but beating yourself up over how it could have been different or why it should be this way, or he said making decisions for reasons that aren't really you, they add up over time, and it gets hard to be when you're in moments like that. It gets harder and harder to listen to your intuition because what somebody else wants, or what, and I don't even just mean it in relationships. I mean this, like, this could be talking about your parents or your siblings, or maybe your boss at work, or whatever it might be. And we definitely, as a society, have kind of lost that touch with this isn't the right thing according to how people think life should go, but I know that this is the right thing for me. Like, that's one of the things when I started doing stand-up was, number one, you're comparing yourself to other people who are really good at it, but you're in some, and this is going to probably sound kind of crazy, but it's like you look at people who are super successful, or who you feel like, what's the best way I could, there's a certain amount of, I would look at people like, here's the example, because I'm resisting saying this example because I feel like it doesn't make sense, but I'm just going to say it because I would watch something like The Sopranos, and like James Gandolfini is super talented, or was super talented, I should say. R.I.P. to the GOAT. But I would look at somebody like that who is super talented, and like not only that, but like very like well liked and well loved, and like I've never ever heard anybody, even when he was alive and now he's been passed for a while, say a bad word about him. And I would somehow walk myself down a path of, well, he never did stand up and he's just like great at everything. How could I do it? I'm not good at anything. Mm-hmm. And as much as that, like, that even sounds nuts for me to say that out loud, to be like, but I think it kind of like formed within me this idea of, well, that's not your path. And like, I could make that example with a ton of other different people who you just look at and you're like, even if it's like, oh, I wish that my style of comedy was like that, or I wish that I had a better grasp on this, or I wish that I had, you even find yourself doing, and it's crazy. You find yourself wishing that you had like a worse childhood, or like a more fucked up background, or something horrible happened to you, just so that like you could have what they gained from that. But the only reason it works for them is because they authentically experienced it, and it wouldn't be the same for you. And I understand that, like, that probably comes from that sounds like, to me, that feels like and sounds like one of the most privileged things I've ever said, to be like, you wish that you had it worse so that like somehow you would have like more material or a better grasp on who you are. But that's just, it's a matter of recognizing that I am not anyone else. I am my own thing. And the more that you try to be like this or be like that, or wrap yourself up into, this is how it's supposed to be, and I need to follow this plan that somebody else did, or how somebody else thinks it should be, you're just kind of pushing yourself further away. And I'm not saying I don't understand how people get to that point, but it doesn't help you at all to say, if they did it, why can't, if they couldn't do this, then why do I even think that a hint of myself could?
Yeah, man.
That's I feel like that was a lot, but it's something I've always dealt with, which is that, like, why place that kind of pressure on yourself that you need to be anything more than what you're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. I want to like backtrack a little bit to like, so I always talk about meditation and like how much it's opened me up. Do you think that meditation helps you connect to the intuitiveness to be able to go do stand up?
Yeah, absolutely.
You think because I think that's such a big thing that not a lot of people, nobody can sit for 5 to 10 minutes.
I don't think it's something that I notice like in the moment as it's going to help me, but like there is a certain amount of, in a way, that moment when I first sit down and the thought's quiet and you take that deep breath in some way I feel that when I get up on stage.
There had to be a day when you were sitting down meditating, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure there was a day when things got silent and got quiet, and you intuitively knew, like, I need to fucking try this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm
I
saying.
don't know if it came from specifically like during a moment of meditation, but I think that over time,
it helps you get there because you know how to
Yeah.
practice being still in
but
your
I've
daily
never,
life.
I've never like sat down and gotten still like that and been like, I'm making the wrong decision by
Yeah.
following my dream.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly like, I wish that I could have a better grasp on. There was actually a really funny moment where I think I like really, to me, it was more recognizing like the connectedness of like why you're doing something. And for some reason, like one of my favorite people on Instagram is that guy Ask Vin. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't.
Vin, I think his name's. I'm probably gonna butcher his name, but I think his full name is Vin Giang or Jiang, and he's Australian, but he's like a public speaker, and he like teaches people how to communicate better. He's like a communication expert. He's really good at stuff like that, which definitely totally applies to stand up, like public speaking. It's right there. And out of nowhere, for some reason, one day I was watching a video of his and I was like, this video is going to be about stand up. And I didn't even have the sound on. And then like I clicked on it and started watching it. And he was, so guys, I'm facing like my biggest fear. I've never done this before, but I'm going to get up and do stand up. Mm-hmm. And this is like a man in like I'm going to assume he's at least 40 something, whatever, and has no desire to do anything like that. But for some reason in my head, I saw that video and I was like, this is about what I need to be thinking about. Yeah. And it was just like, and things like that just started making more and more sense. And then like people would make this comment or that comment. And then I would just like take time when I was alone to be like, am I crazy for thinking that I could do this? And I think I kind of went back and forth, and everything just kept saying that like none of this means shit until you get up on stage and start doing stuff. Mm-hmm. And it felt to me like the first opportunity that I could take to just not think and do it. You know, because obviously you have to put certain thought into it for you to reap the benefits of that. But I mean more so in the fact of whenever I get those thoughts of, this is scary, I can't do this, there's no possible way that you could ever do this, let alone be successful at this, I just know that that's not me. Mm-hmm. And sometimes those thoughts like really do have power and like really seem convincing, but I just know that like that's not what my authentic self would say. My authentic self would say like, you need to be trying. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about what anybody else thinks. And nothing at all from my experience in doing that, and it's only been a couple weeks, has been other than pushing me towards, you should be doing this more.
Yeah.
You should be pursuing this. You're doing the right thing. And if this is how I feel at 3 weeks, like how will it feel in a year?
Isn't that such an interesting thing to think about and to like want to pursue? That's like, I'm so close to a year sober, and I like couldn't even imagine what it was going to feel like at the beginning when I stopped drinking. Yeah. I couldn't even picture myself getting this far. And now it's just like, you just keep striving for like those feelings of like what it's going to be like, mm-hmm. and how much better can it get? You know, mm-hmm. like I'm so clear-minded now. It's like the most clear I've ever been, because I don't have those, like, I'm not saying that everybody needs to stop drinking or stop smoking, whatever, but like for me, I don't know if I could have like come to this, you know what I mean? Like gotten this still to just be like so clear. Like I love writing now so much, mm-hmm. you know, like more than I ever thought that I would. And like, I love doing it every single morning. And I don't like a lot of when I'm still and I'm like sitting down, I'll just start thinking of things that I'm going to write about. Mm-hmm. And like, that would have never come to me before, you know, mm-hmm. like, cause there was just so much internal dialogue going on, and I've just mm-hmm. tuned it down so low, like that mm-hmm. It's like I can feel it in my throat right now. Like I'm speaking my truth. Like my throat chakra is like coming out. Like mm-hmm. it's just, this is what like for me that it's all about. Like
do you find that like a lot of times you hear people talk about, especially being sober and pursuing things like that, do you find that, like, in the beginning, did you kind of just, like, make a choice, like, I am this person now? Or did it kind of take you a while to be like, I am sober, I'm not that? Like, how did you like progress in that identity? Because that's often, I think, the hardest part of changing something that's such a big part of your life.
For me, at first, it all started because I knew I was like going down a bad path between doing coke all the time and then like drinking and the lifestyle I was living, staying up till like 3 in the morning. I was just miserable, and like I knew that like that needed to change. And at first, yeah, I probably was just like, not like you saw it. Like I didn't go out a lot. Like I didn't do a lot of stuff because I was like, I'm sober. Like I can't be around this shit. And like, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And now it's just so like, I think I listened to, like I saw it on Shameless. Like they were at an AA meeting and Lip is talking to a sponsor. And he's just like, the point of being sober is to go help somebody else. Like when they get to that point where they decide that they need this, like you have to be there for them because that's what somebody else did for you. And like that just, it's so in tune and aligned with where I want to be. Like, you know, like I talk about it all the time. Like I just want to help people.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I really can't express enough like how there's no way I'm in the same place without you being there, being like, you got this, man.
Yeah.
You know, like that. And that, not that like you need help, I needed help like getting sober, but just in terms of
just like finding the motivation,
you're doing the right
and courage
thing
to like go
because
do
it's
something.
like but sometimes like the people close to you are, your thoughts can get so loud and they can get so mean and they can get so like unrealistic that when you have people close to you who like know you well enough and can kind of place that into your mind over and over and just say like, you might not feel like it today, but you're still that person who wants that dream or who can chase that or who is capable of doing something bigger than themselves. Like that is the biggest part. And like, I do genuinely feel like you're going to be a big part of that for other people too.
It's like
To like help them get sober.
it's not like just, it could be getting sober, it could be fixing like the thoughts in your head, like not being so depressed, not being so anxious, like, but like I just want to help. Like I have it in my journal, bro. I'll show you. It's just like I want JP to succeed at comedy and like go follow his dream. Like I do it for my sister with her business and for my parents, like what they want out of life, because that's, to me, the only way I'm going to get what I want out of life is if everybody else gets what they need.
Yeah, what's the point
and like,
if you're not sharing it? Yeah.
That's where it is for me. Like, even when I work in a restaurant, man, like, there's something to me that I've always felt connected with there is like, you get your share of scumbags and everything,
course,
but
yeah.
like, the time that I was at River Grill, to be able to help Mark and his family, like, by being good at my job and giving good service, like, helps them. And like, now like where I am, like I want that's a family business that's been there for forever, and I want them to continue on that path. And like I'm not gonna go in there and fuck it up, well, you know what I mean? Like the best thing I can do for them is just show up to work and do my job and do it well every day, because that helps them. And then like in return, I'm making money so I can sit down and like not stress about bills while we do this, because this is what it is for me. Like I just want to be able to just I'm not saying I'm the fucking chosen one, but like everybody's gonna come to a point in time like where I scroll down my timeline and I saw that Mike video and like clicked for me, because everybody needs somebody to like say something that really fucking resonates with them, that helps them want to change and like get better. And just whatever that step might be, like that's why we sit down here and I do this with you, because like hopefully something I say validates somebody else. And like with you talking about like you chasing your dreams, like how many people need to hear that? So many. Yeah. Because so many people don't do it. And
like, how many people need to hear that when you're chasing your dream? Like it's not this fairy tale thing that you just decide to do it and then everything lines up. It's like you have to make a decision.
Yeah, man. And like the power of your mind is like, it's incredible. And like when you change your narrative that's going on in your head, like that's why I keep giving you these fucking books, because it's gonna click. Like when you change the narrative in your head, it just makes everything so much more accessible.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, going back to what you said, I think we all underestimate the like impact that we can have, and thinking that your own story is worthless and that it can't help somebody else. But as long as you're being true, like for instance, like I would never expect to hear something like this. Like last night I was at Roosevelt talking to Gabby, and she said something to me. I don't want to quote her, but she said something to me that was like, you have this like confidence about you. And I was like, 99% of the time.
Is there somebody behind me?
Yeah, I'm like, huh? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you think that it's so easy to convince yourself of that bad narrative in your head that it's so easy to follow down and take into a rabbit hole. But then, like, and I'm not saying that you should just base everything that you do off of what somebody said. It's not like she said that and I felt like the most confident person in the world either. But it's good to like realize and have that perspective and have people in your life who can point things out to you and push you to places that you never ever thought that you would land at. And that's the kind of thing that like I would never in a million years think that anybody, truthfully, like, and maybe it's something that, like I said, I think it's just something within my own self, but I would never think that anybody would come to me and be like, you're so confident up there. Like, how do you do it? Like, like that is something I've never believed about myself. And yes, you have to like cultivate this thing within yourself and believe things about yourself and blah, blah, blah. But sometimes it's kind of like the tipping point when somebody points something out to you that you never thought you could be, but to them and obviously to other people, you are that. And I guess I'm just grateful.
Yeah, man. Isn't that what it's about?
Yeah, I'm getting emotional again, but it's like, realizing your potential is not always something that like you have to like draw from nowhere. And as much as I say like, yeah, work on yourself, do what you need to do, but also like when the people who are close to you tell you something that means something to you, believe it. Don't just throw it in the trash.
Yeah, man. It's like in like the darkest, like not darkest, but the most depressing part of these first 2 weeks of being home, like when I was like really just, I had no value for myself like a week and a half ago. Like I just was down and there was no other way to put it. And I read another one of his quotes, man, and it's just we all come from source. And like it was just an affirmation and it was super simple. But like it clicked with me cuz like there's no reason, this is for anybody. Like this can be for anybody. Like if you feel down, just say this to yourself a couple times. I come from greatness. I attract greatness. I am greatness. Yeah. Say that 3 times. I guarantee you it's going to change your mood. And why should that be false? There's no reason. Like, think about it, man. Just think about it for a second. Like,
that's one of the things that I don't even know if I've told you that I started doing, but I've done it like once or twice now, or at least like recording them. Like, especially in moments where you don't feel like you've got it, you know, whatever that means to you, is I'll record myself doing affirmations
to play back.
And then, well, I won't play it back then, but like I'll play it back at a time where like you feel like you need that. Because sometimes like what the voice in your head that really isn't you gets so loud that you need to hear yourself being like, and I especially like to do it at times where I really do feel that way, because then I can like feel the energy in my voice of it being like, I am deserving of success. I attract, you know what I mean? And it can, you can go a million ways. And I think that saying it also has the same benefits as listening to it. But sometimes like little things like that can change it all, you know? Like sometimes when you get to places like that, the last thing you want to do is hear yourself say like, you've got this, or whatever, you know, whatever it is that you say in your affirmations. Like I think anybody, if you dig deep enough, you know exactly what you need to say to yourself. That can help. But to have like even in those tough moments where like I said, it feels like things are piling up, it feels like you're overwhelmed, and I can't tell you even how many times like I've thought about that thing that you said to me that was like, when you feel that, like rule number 6.
Yeah, that's what I was
Rule
just about
number
to
six.
say. Rule
Were
number
you-
6.
were
Don't take
you?
yourself so goddamn seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you just say that to yourself. Like, you're getting tense
None of-
about something. Like,
And it's like, yes, we want to have an impact. We want to do amazing things while we're on this earth. But when you apply the fact of I'm scared of judgment, I'm scared of embarrassment, like trying something new, of putting myself out there, in 100 years, nobody's gonna fucking care.
yeah, man.
And if anything, like the things that will survive were the impact, or the the good things, the great things that came from intention. If something didn't work out the way you planned, like everybody's way too wrapped up in what they're doing. I think that this was another Vin Gang video, which was he said, imagine in your head a time where you felt really embarrassed. And like, I'm sure right now something just came to your head.
100%.
Yeah. Try to imagine a time where somebody else was really embarrassed.
Yeah, you can't.
Like, if you thought really hard, maybe you could come up with something. But like,
How do you know if they were actually
that's
embarrassed? though,
yeah,
you know?
exactly. That's it, and it's like how and also when you like really, I think when you break that down, because this is something I struggle with all the time, but that is like, if somebody was dwelling on something that you did that was embarrassing, that'd be fucking weird. Like I don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't go back and think about, and that is one of the things that I've learned so much from doing comedy, which is that like, you're not gonna resonate with everybody. So somebody's style is not gonna be their own thing, but there comes this like mutual respect of not even just in the performance, but of doing anything that takes courage or is risky, that comes from just like, I may not agree with what you're doing, or I may not like see what you're seeing, but like, God damn it, if you're not fucking trying to do that thing, like I respect the shit out of that. Keep doing that. And if that's what brings you joy and your heart is in the right place, then never stop doing that thing, regardless of what anybody else thinks. And what I think comes from that for me is when you start to judge less about what other people are doing, you start to judge yourself less. And you start not to be like, I have to be in this bubble of what I think is right, because then it becomes, well, if I'm okay with somebody else changing something in their life or with doing something that I don't agree with, like, then why can't I wake up tomorrow and say like, I've never thought about this before, I've never done this before, but I'm gonna try. And I think it creates like it's like that ripple effect that like, maybe it starts, I think for me, like it starts with other people, and then that allows you to kind of take care of yourself better and be more nurturing to yourself, because what you were really beating up on somebody else about was really about you. And I'm not saying that I figured that out, but I'm also saying that like, I feel closer to that. I feel like I don't have to like lean away from, I don't like this, so that means I have to like prove that I'm better than it or separate myself entirely from it. People are going to do what they want. And just like I would want somebody who maybe doesn't agree with what I'm doing to just at the very least, like respect it. I can do that. I have full power within my control to do that to every single person that I come across, whether it's scrolling on TikTok or it's sitting at the bar.
Control what's controllable.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing to have. Like I said, never will I ever act like I've just like got that figured out and I've mastered that skill. But
And if you do have it figured out, then you got some issues.
you're missing out. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're missing out because you're not learning. And I think that it's kind of crazy to say, but it's that feeling of what does it really feel like when you're like pursuing something that's bigger than you, when you're not just doing it for, you know, money or chips or whatever you want to call it, like when you're doing it and not being concerned with the outcome and just following what you feel like it's supposed to be. And I don't think that just, you know, pops up out of nowhere. Like you said, I think that once you've already lost the second that you say, I have it all figured out. But I think a big part of that too is understanding that I don't have it all figured out, but there are certain things like me judging anybody doesn't help anything. Me holding back from not doing what I want to do does not help anybody. And not reverting back to that in moments of weakness or trial and tribulation. I don't know. It's like knowing that I'm not doing this just for me. But also kind of creates this thing, if you ever struggle with self-worth, to be like, if I can do this for somebody else, I can do this for me too. And I think that that's something that's hard for all of us. You know, we'd be the quickest person to, even in, you know, me and you have been friends for so long. And I think if we talk to each other the way that we sometimes talk to ourselves, we would not be friends, you know, right? And it can be hard to take that pause and be like, you know, like, I deserve this. Like, I deserve to be here, you know? Mm-hmm. That is, you know, like, try to be your own friend. I'm not saying it's the easiest thing in the world. I struggle with it every day. But, and if you're lucky enough to have, like, good people in your life, like, treat yourself like you feel like they would treat you, you know? Like, we all have moments of heartbreak and where people let us down. But at the end of the day, you can be just like some days somebody else is the light for you, but you don't know if, you know, one day you might be that light.
It's so cliche, but like we're all connected, and like you just have to sit and realize that.
Yeah.
Like,
there's enough room for everybody to succeed. Like,
at the end of the day, like what's the point of tearing somebody down because you're not happy or content with yourself?
yeah.
So, you know, just let the judgment go. It's just the ego.
Yeah, man. And that's why, I mean, I keep going back to this, but it's like, that's what I think doing something performance-wise has helped me with, which is that you can't possibly be like judging somebody who goes up there and, like I said, maybe you don't agree with it or you think they could be doing something different or whatever, blah, blah, blah. You can't possibly be in that mind state and then you yourself get up there and then like immediately revert back to that, you know?
Yeah.
That's not the way it works. And like I said, there's enough room for everybody to succeed and find their own lane, and wishing that you were like somebody else, or figuring, you know, you wish that you could figure it out in the way that they did, or that, like I said, or that you had some type of point of view that they have figured out about themselves that maybe you don't have yet, that you're trying to reach towards. Just give it time. Some days you have to wake up, and even when it feels like you're not making any progress, you are.
It's important to remember that what you think about is what unfolds in your life. So if you're spending all your time judging somebody else, guess what? It's all you're going to get in return.
Yeah. Well, that's all you're going to do to yourself, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's... We should just change the pictures and the logo of us with tears coming down our eyes.
Yeah, man.
That would be more fitting, right? But like that's what I said. I mean, we haven't done one of these with just me and you since...
It's been like a month almost.
Wait, what was the last one?
Since the one in the apartment. Oh, well, no, we did the remote episode, but we weren't there.
Yeah.
So, like,
So this is technically our first one of this year.
Yeah, because
where it's just me and you, right?
Yeah, it was New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
That we did it at the apartment.
Yeah. Wow.
And a lot has changed.
Yeah. More so for you, but.
I mean, like, look at you, man.
No, I mean, that's true.
Stand up.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And that is, I'm gonna keep saying this till the day I die, and I hope that I can be, or I shouldn't even say I hope that I know that I am that person to other people who says, like, give yourself some credit.
Yeah.
You did this, like, and sometimes that's what people need. And like I said, I mean, we get our society gets very wrapped into, like, you are your own independent thing, and nobody can make you feel a certain way, and nobody can do, like, and it becomes like you don't want to rely upon the validation of others. But like I said, I'll keep going back to this, which is, like, if you're lucky enough to have people who care about you and are willing to see and point out to you those things in yourself that you feel like are not there, are impossible to reach, or could never be like your reality, you're very lucky, because a lot of people have friends who aren't honest with them and they tell them what they want to hear. And to have people in your life who go out of their way and give of their time, and they're they're generous with how I'll just say, like, they're generous in the way that they treat you. You're in a very lucky company, and a lot of people don't have that. And I feel extremely lucky because I feel like I have that in so many areas. And yeah, it would be easy for me to say, like, yeah, no, I would have pursued this eventually on my own and figured it out. But there's also, like, no way I'm there without people saying, like, you can do this. Mm-hmm. Like, we believe in you.
Yeah, man.
And that, as much as that sounds like a simple thing to say, like, when you spent the majority of your life believing that you couldn't, like, that means that can change it, and you can start saying, like, maybe I should be talking to myself the way my friends take care of me. Mm-hmm. And then that allows you to do the same thing and turn around and give that gift to somebody else when they really need to hear it.
Yeah.
That, like, I mean, I can't say it enough. Like, I'm very grateful to have, I feel like, a large circle of people who, like, genuinely give a shit. But I also have to, like I said, you have to give yourself some credit to be, like, part of that exists there because of what I've done too. Mm-hmm. And to, like, give yourself credit for that it's not, like, it's not completely one-sided, but you can always kind of learn to grow from that. And, I don't think that anybody has ever been a better friend and become a worse person.
Amen.
I was talking about you there. That was part of it.
Wow.
You got anything else?
Nah, man. Be grateful. Stay on purpose.
Yeah.
Shout out to Carlos.
Yeah.
Shout out to Will for the equipment, like always.
Yeah.
You know.
Shout out to everybody that supported us with the podcast and just in our personal lives. Like, as much as, like, we give ourselves the credit because, like, we did this and we created it from nothing, like, we are so grateful for anyone who listens and who that, even if it's been one clip or it's been like a whole episode that you've listened to, and if you've watched us, be emotional in HD.
Yeah.
We hope it was at the very least entertaining, but if not more so, we hope that it was inspiring to just, go out there and try that thing, Yeah. You don't necessarily know who's watching or who you're inspiring.
Yeah. Who thought we'd be here?
Yeah.
I I come from greatness. I attract greatness. I am greatness. Tell yourself that tonight.
Thanks for listening.
All that glitters ain't gold. I had money, been broke. I've been high, I've been low. I done pimped it, been whole. I done prayed and been prayed on. I fell off and I stayed on. I've been played, but I play on. There ain't shit I can't take on.